Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to WR for round 8 of. No. Yes? Yes.
That's a great
A
start.
great start to this one. And we were just complaining about earlier. No, before we go there. We are here for World Online Racing, console tier 1, where we are at Imola for tonight. And, usually, Imola, in my opinion, is a great track for racing. Get some really good stuff from the from the drivers. But I'm joined by Joseph again this week. Welcome along, Joseph. I hope you're doing well.
All good. Very excited to see what the drivers can do around around Imola this evening. Of course, the end of the Great British Grand Prix was incredible, and we've got some good momentum going. I'm hoping, and this should be another good one. Hopefully, at least the race is going to start like the last one ended, and from there we can have a great time.
We hopefully can indeed. And let's have a look at the standings because Matteo has only got a point in front of Ryder Dahl at the after the British Grand Prix standings. It's looking a bit grey and murky in Italy right now, or in Imola, but just waiting, I suppose, for every driver to join from Tier 2 just to fill out the grid. But it's really tight at the top, isn't it? Matteo, Ryder Dahl, anyone's championship.
It certainly is, and at this point in the season, it's really down to the nitty gritty. What sort of points can you drag out, and what can you do to get yourself above the other driver? Because all the drivers here are pretty much the same pace, so it's all about taking those extra hundredths of a second, extra tenths of a second, which will turn into maybe 1 or 2 positions, 1 or 2 points per lap, which doesn't seem like much, but when you get to the end of the season, it's a huge margin.
Okay. I think there was a little bit of an issue. Hopefully Joseph can hear me again.
I can now. I'm not sure why I couldn't, but I can now.
Good.
And we're back in and raring to go.
We are, Tony Richet's just about to start a lap, and let's see how this works out.
See how Tony Richet, however you say, he's a very, very good driver, a very quick driver, and we'll see how the Kick Sauber fares on his first lap around the Emilia-Romagna circuit. And so I'm not going to read out the full Grand Prix name. You'll see it on the screens later, but it's an incredibly long one, the longest one on the circuit, and this is one of those laps that feels like one of the longest circuits on the calendar, just because of how intense it is. You have to throw yourself into the majority of the corners at a very high speed and try not to invalidate, as well as there's some parts of the circuit that are difficult with invalidation, and I think some of the drivers are going to have problems with that, just like Tony Richaz, and that is going to be the Kick Sauber's first lap abandoned.
Yeah, it's not ideal when it's as close as that. The track seems really close, doesn't it? But it's not. It's still quite a wide track, but there's so many invalidations, and my goodness me, Dirk went completely off the track at the exit of Piratella there and somehow didn't get an invalidation.
Yeah, as I say, there's a couple of dodgy invalidation zones on this game, but of course that is the nature of F1 25. You have to find the spots where you can gain that lasting advantage, and that's the case in any game, but this is easier more than others. Dirk is going to come around the final couple of corners, and I think he's going to be, if not the first, then one of the first to set his time, as we do have 20 drivers on this field. Azim is going to be one of them, and he's going to be disqualified. Dirk is going to be disqualified from his first push lap, running wide out of the final corner, and I think he might have invalidated his second lap too. Indeed he has. That's not great for the V-Carb. Ryder Dahl up to the top of the times, a 1:13.3, and Quantum a 1:13.6 in the McLaren. And, that's going to be Venom going in with a 14.1. So big gaps to split those three at the moment, as I think the majority of drivers are just trying to set valid laps.
Yeah, just setting a banker in and just to make sure that there is a lap on the board as we see Shizou Oscar, or Shizou Cedar Igniters Oscar, heading into Varante Alta there. That looking like a really good show, and for some reason it's saying that FIFA is ready for me to play. Not sure why, so apologies for that little notification popping up there. Typical's joined the lobby, and into Ravaza comes Oscar to set their lap time. Oscar, pretty impressive so far this season, 1 lap pace. See how it will be at this one, throwing themselves second place just behind Ryder Dahl for the time being.
It's not bad for Oscar there, just to kick off his qualifying session. I think to get a lap time on the board is good for any of these drivers. We have 5 filling in from Tier 2, and I'm expecting them to be right on the pace because their race has just finished. You could have watched that over on Twitch at World Online Racing F1 if you wanted to get the action, a little preview of the action before the main event in Tier 1 this evening. They come from Tier 2, and well, Simba Rocks 1 is one of those drivers in the Aston Martin heading through the final sector, and I think he's going to be, he's going to be the first driver to set a valid lap, and he runs over the chicane and invalidates, so he won't in fact be the first one. Typical has left the session once again, but Ollie Hornby is another driver from Tier 2 who's just filled in this evening. He has just, I think, done the same, and I think he's invalidated on his first lap time. And then, well, we have Wards in the session as well. He's currently in the pit lane in the Red Bull. Schumacher, currently the driver in 3rd place. He is currently filling in as well. And, well, that's 4 of the 5 drivers. I'm just trying to find which one is the 5th driver, in fact. And it actually would be typical. Would be that 5th driver promoted from Tier 2. So a great platform for some of these drivers to see what they can do.
Certainly is indeed, as into Varante Alta comes Jensen. Let's see what they can do. But yeah, it's, you know, when the Tier 2 drivers can come in and showcase what they're all about, it does go a little way for them to see how confident they can be coming to towards the end of the season, and may even spur them on in their league as well. Jensen up into 9th place with a 13.9 to start things off with them. Urpek then through Tozer into turn 8, that little kick to the right hand side before heading into Piratella.
I think the case with Typical was that he joined the session because he didn't know that he wasn't actually supposed to be racing, because I think he was drafted in last minute. But I think Azim announced that he could race last minute, so then he was able to come through. But Urpek is on a good lap so far in the kick Sauber. He's going to try and beat his teammate with a 13.7 and going to try and beat Ryder Dahl at the top with a 13.3. Not a bad lap time, all things considered. Everybody else is filtering in and around a 13.6. And, well, there's actually going to be 4 drivers with that exact amount. Urpek now, final corner, and he's going to put the power down. A little bit of a kink around the final corner there. It's actually not registered as a corner, and Urpek 13.7, so slotting in just ahead of his teammate, but behind the majority of the pack.
Just having a look who else could be just about to start a lap time. I think that is Lifebout just heading towards the pit lane. So Dirk coming, well, going to be the first driver to set a lap time, I think, from the next runners. Could get some traffic, because I think that's Ollie Hornby and possibly Venom coming out of the pit lane at the point where Dirk is coming down the start-finish straight. Are they going to be on the racing line? That's going to be very, very close. But thankfully, Venom wasn't in the way for Dirk, and the 2 Shizou drivers can not get caught in an instant there.
Especially as they're part of the same team, it would make it slightly awkward, I think. And, well, it would not be an ideal situation for them to find themselves in, as, well, we've got 9 minutes, well, just under 10 minutes left in this session, in fact. And we've got the second runs starting to flow in, and for the majority of drivers, it'll be the first laps on the board. 7 drivers, in fact, have not set time, so I guess that's not the majority, but Lawrence and Venom, and I believe Jensen as well, won't feel like they've got a representative time on the board, and they'll want to improve, as the lowest of the pack appears to be a 13.7, which is where Tony Reich and Urpek are right now, and Matteo is just beating it. But Ryder Dahl 13.3 is an incredible lap to kick off with, and he's just come out of the pit to see what he can do once again. Lawrence is heading through the second sector, though, and this is where the majority of drivers have invalidated this evening. It's in the little kink to the right followed by the braking zone, which you have to take as one corner pretty much, and then it's going to be the chicane as well, as Dirk goes up into third place with a 15.566. Lawrence improving by 0.2 of a second, but that's going to be spoiled by the chicane as he runs over it. He locks up just that little bit, and that is, well, it's another corner where the problems have lied.
Yeah, there's a few drivers that are just, well, getting themselves caught out, as I think Quantum was on a lap time, but then at the exit of Aqua Minerale decided, no, not going to be for them. Is Venom on a lap time? Let's see what Venom can do coming through into Tozer now. It's all a little bit chaotic, I think, through all this. I think it's the best way to describe it. No driver really, or no, other than Ryder Dahl and possibly Oscar, really getting to grips with the track just yet.
Yeah, not quite. I think they're just going to try and take their opportunity to learn it at the moment. Well, I'm quite surprised at the fact that Simbarox, Ollie Hornby and Wards haven't been able to set times yet, because they have come straight from the Tier 2 race, and they should be able to throw themselves right into this one. That's exactly what Schumacher's done in 4th place at the moment with a 13.571, only 5 thousandths off of Dirk, and Zviade up to 9th place with a 13.7. Everybody appears to be 13.6 is 13.7, something along those lines. And Oscar and Ryder Dahl very much the exception right now.
Yeah, they just waiting for Venom across the line for Venom. Oh, Venom didn't actually set a lap time for all that. That was rather odd. Francesco Largo goes pole, goes quickest of all. Ryder Dahl just going a bit wide out of Aqua Minerale there. Tony Richet goes even quicker. So the track is ramping up a little bit. And Ryder Dahl has some, has something to answer for.
A couple of lap times that have just been thrown in there. Francesco Largo showing the qualifying pace that I've talked about the whole season. I think that's the only point that I've made about Francesco Largo, to be fair, that he's a qualifying merchant. And this season hasn't quite demonstrated it as well as he can. But 3rd place at the moment, not bad. Now down to 4th as Ryder Dahl up to 2nd place. This track seems to be rapidly improving.
It is. It's massively improving, isn't it? Here comes Lifeboat. He's nearly, well, it's 1/4 of a second quicker, but through Varante Alta has completely cut the chicane, and that is their lap time over and done with. And Wollongong then just about to finish the lap time, I think. Maybe no, bails from it and goes into the pits. Erpic is just about to start a lap time. Have we got anyone else that is towards the end of it all? Ollie Hornby's rather low on it. Tony Richet is there. There's a Ferrari. Is that Schumacher coming through? Slightly down on their lap time is Schumacher. Now even further down, so we won't stay on board with Schumacher. Let's just go back to Erpic and see what Erpic can do, because they are actually quicker in Sector 1 than they were last time round.
Yeah, good start for the Kick Sauber. One of not many to be improving on the lap times, although, of course, those at the very top of the field have. Tony Riesch on that pole position of 13.0, and he's half a tenth quicker than Ryder Dahl in P2. And Erpek looking to try and reach those heights, but he's got 7/10 to find. He's found 3 of them. Can he make it his way through the chicane, getting very, very close to track limits there, but does manage to keep all 4 wheels, or at least 3, on at the tarmac. And, well, able to keep himself going through this lap time. Last corner then beckons for the Kick Sauber. Don't invalidate here. That would be a stupid mistake to make, and he doesn't. And it's going to be up to the line, and it's going to be a 1:13.299. So a very good lap from the Kick Sauber. And, well, streets ahead of his previous time. He's up to 5th.
It's not a bad time at all. And that's both Kick Sauber cars improving quite impressively, I think is the best way to describe it, because they've jumped up the order very well there. As I think Schumacher could very well be on another lap here, because they are pushing like mad. They're 0.2 of a second or 0.3 of a second down. That's surely not going to be an improvement. They are just pushing to get into the pit lane. Jensen is down on their lap time, or is invalidated even. So let's just have a nice steady stroll with TF10 Wards as they are trying to get themselves ready and warm the tyres up for what could be their final run.
Yeah, you think that there should be time on the board for Wards here. Of course, he set his lap time in that qualifying session in Tier 2, and now Tier 1 is his perfect opportunity to see what he can do and stack himself up against the rest of this slightly higher quality field. I think it's fair to say, of course, they've been placed in the highest tier for a reason. We don't have comparative times to see what the drivers were able to do in Imola because, well, it was a wet session, so the whole time was a 1 minute 20.7. They're not that much slower than the tier 1 drivers, but that is the times they set at the moment. Wards are now heading into the first corner, trying to use all of the curbing and running over that beautiful Italian flavour of curb on the insides and the outsides of the first chicane. Now the second chicane coming up is where a lot of drivers invalidate because it looks like you can go quicker than you can, but Ward's taking it nice and gently and doing it perfectly fine. Now throwing the car into the hairpin. It's one of those corners where it feels as though you have to keep your minimum speed up as soon as you can, and then running up the hill and down the hill once again, throwing the car in. And again, another corner where it feels like you can go quicker than you can, and Wards went quicker than he could. And he's managed to invalidate and run off the circuit as well. So he's going to be, I think, coming into the pits, and it's going to all come down to that one final lap.
It is. It's going to be very well. They've got to get to the pits really quickly as well. Quantum, which we quite often see, is going out on track as one of the first drivers to do so on the final runs. And because it's the final run time, Joseph, who's going to take pole position tonight for Tier 1?
I think there's a bit more time in the lap for Ryderdale, to be honest with you. I think the first lap that he set was so much better than the rest of the field. And the second lap, I think he'll be slightly disappointed with it, with the fact that Tony Reich was able to go so far up. So I think Michael will be the Alpine. Having said that, he's already out on the circuit, so he might not get to experience the full track, the full track evolution. But I don't think he's going to be that much slower because of that. And I think he's just got enough lap time to get it done.
Okay, so I'm going to take that down as Ryderdale, and you know what, I did write my answer as Ryderdale as well, because I just think they've got so much more in the locker to produce, especially after that first lap. Or did they just leave it, showed the hand too early in qualifying, even with the track evolution as it is? But Quantum could find themselves in a little bit of pain. 2 minutes left of qualifying. There's still cars coming out of the pits, and it could cost them when it comes down to, well, cars being in the way on their lap, because there's 3 cars going through Tamburello now, and he's just about ahead to Tamburello, so they could catch him at the slower points of the track.
Yeah, and Wards is only just coming out of the pits now while everyone else was coming out. He was going into the pit lane, which is not ideal preparation for your final runs, especially when you haven't got a run on the board so far. Around the final couple of corners, then come the first few drivers, and it's going to be led by those who are at the top of the field. Ryderdale and Tony Reich are going to be the first couple of drivers to get us underway, I think, in terms of the proper real runs for pole position. And I'll keep an eye on where both of those drivers are in comparison to each other, because I think those are the two with the greatest shout for pole. Ryderdale in the first sector is improving by 0.8 of a second, or 0.08 of a second. Even if it was 0.8, I'd be very impressed. And Tony Reich getting very close to track limits, but he's only improved by 1/4 of a tenth. Tony Reich now is going to be heading into the second sector, following Ryderdale through, and Ryderdale is facing some traffic, and I think he's going to reach them at a better spot than Tony Reich, so the gods might have blessed Ryderdale here today, and the second sector is about to be complete, and he's going to set a lap time a tenth quicker. What has Tony Reich been able to do? Well, he's going to come up to the split time now, and it's only going to be an improvement by 0.03 of a second. So the Alpine is in prime position to take pole position here today, and the final couple of corners now beckon for him, as of course there's still 17 drivers yet to set a lap time, and well, the final one, Wards, is about to come around the final couple of corners. Ryderdale then a 1:12.9. It's our first 1:12 lap time of the day. Tony Reich, has he found the time in the final sector he needed? It doesn't look like he has, and he's going to be off pole by 0.02 of a second, as we've got a few drivers who've already invalidated. Francesco Largo went 0.3 quicker, and well, he won't be able to set a time. Oscar won't be able to set a time either. The checkered flag is waved. Uppbeat won't be improving on his 4th place. Francesco Largo, of course, won't be improving on his 5th. So over to you, the rest of the grid.
Let's see who's... I think Matteo's just gone up into P6. Schumacher's going slowly. Dirk is going to, well, try to navigate around there. Dirk is up slightly on their lap time, so could throw themselves up a little bit. Someone else has gone up. I think that's Swallowcon got into 6th place for the time being. And Lifeboat, whereabouts are you on track? I think it's going to be one of the Aston Martins next, to be perfectly honest. So probably Lafitte coming across the line, but we'll stay on board with Dirk, who's trying desperately to throw themselves up the order a little bit, and across the line for the Shizou driver. It's up into 7th place provisionally, but other drivers still to set lap time. Where is Lawrence in all this? Lawrence is invalidated. There's so many drivers that have been validated through this one. Let's go towards yet to set a lap time. Let's see how far they can go up the grid.
Yeah, Wards is going to see whether they can actually set a time this time around and keep it on the circuit. This is where, well, it looks like they're going to be able to, as Zviado retires with his best being a 13.3, and it's going to be a 13.6 for Wards. So after all that, that's not a terrible lap time for the Red Bull, who's going to finish off the session in a decently positive mood. I think Lawrence is going to be the final driver, as is Ryderdal, to finish us off as they're coming into the pit lane. It's going to be Ryderdal on that pole position. Tony Riesch in P2. Quantum getting up there in 3rd place with a lap at the end. Oscar Urpek and Francesco Largo not able to take advantage of their positions and of their good bases that they set themselves up for. Francesco Largo being 3/10 up in the first 2 sectors was an incredible achievement from the Ferrari, and that scares me in terms of the pace that he has. Lifebout and Volakongan will be 7th and 8th, and Dirk and Matteo round out the top 10, and only Zviade and Venom, I'd say, have more competitive lap times, as everyone else, a couple of tenths off. Not the greatest performance from anyone else, but of course a lot of them were the tier 2 drivers, so it's to be expected. But qualifying's over, the race is about to get underway, and well, it looks like it's going to be a cracker.
Normal amount of pace through all this, but Ryderdal being on pole and Tony Riesch alongside them on the front row of the grid. Yeah, enough for that. Let's see. Well, I say enough of that. Matteo down in 10th place, but very similar to last time out. And if we go and have a look at the standings, Matteo's leading the way still, even if he hasn't. Well, they haven't got the qualifying pace outright over their rival.
Which is weird, because on this game it feels as though qualifying pace is so important, but I guess there's exceptions to rules sometimes, and he is the archetype of it, as I believe we're going to be able to get going straight away. I'm not sure. I don't think we'll be having a lobby restart, and then we will have all of the laps of Imola yet still to go. It's, well, a very tense title fight. One of the drivers, of course, is Italian, so he'll be wanting to get a good result on his home circuit. And, well, of course, with the way that there's usually two Italian circuits on an F1 calendar, there's not here this evening, and there's not across this season. It's going to be Emilia-Romagna. Then we head to Japan and Abu Dhabi to round out our season.
That we will indeed. And while we're here in this screen waiting for the lobby to go, I will ask you the question: who do you think is going to take victory tonight in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix here in WR?
Oh, I think I'm going to back Ryderdal. I mean, I backed him in qualifying and it worked, so I think he's going to take a pole to flag. I think it's going to be close, because I think there's drivers, Francesco Largo, or take, for example, the driver on the front row of the grid alongside him, of course, Tony Riesch, who have the pace, but it's about who's going to be able to convert it, and I think Ryderdal has that ability.
Yeah, I'm going to back Francesco Largo. For no other reason that I think it's just adds a little bit of spice. I'm pretty certain, correct me if I'm wrong, I might say that every week. But I think, think outside the box. Bring them back into the championship battle. They're just outside it. But with 2 rounds remaining after this, if they can get a victory, they're right back in it. If they can't, it's pretty much championship done.
Yeah, it would be, and that wouldn't be great for them, especially at this point in the season when it's all wide open. And I think this race could go very far in deciding the way that this championship goes, because just it feels very, very palpable, the tension, with the fact that there is only 1 point in between them. And, well, hopefully we'll get the opportunity to see these 2 race on track tonight. I know there's not been the greatest qualifying pace from Matteo, but of course anything could happen across the course of this race. Longest pit stop time on the calendar, by the way, so it won't necessarily be through strategy that he'll beat him, but sometimes when you're at your home circuit, it's the desperation that wills you along.
Yeah, sometimes it is indeed, and You know, wow, it's the desperation. Even in the sim racing, actually, forget about that. We are on 3, 4, 5 red lights here in Imola. And they've held for some time, but they are underway. Let's have a look at the tyre strategy straight away. Everyone's on hards. And what can Tony do as they head on down into turn number 2? And at the moment, it's looking like Quantum's the one having to hold from Oscar. And as cars going off in the background, it's 3 wide for a few in the background, Matteo being one of them. But everyone relatively safe at the moment.
Yeah, say that, but then the battle for 6th place was 3 wide, and that's a driver going off the circuit. Dirk is already out of this session. The promising pace that he was showing in qualifying isn't going to be translated to the race unless there's some sort of safety car, but that is going to be him out of contention. And, well, the battle for that 6th place has ended. Lifeboat and Matteo did go side by side momentarily, went 3 wide, but in the end, it was going to be Uppbeat that was going to win that one out all day, and Lifeboat in that 7th place was under pressure from Matteo and Volakongan. They've decided to filter in straight through, but an incredible start for Matteo, who jumps up to 8th.
Exactly what Matteo needs to do as the 2 Williamses behind. Oswaldi and Lawrence getting very close together, but nothing doing for Lawrence at the moment. Let's have a quick look at the positional changes. Let's remove Dirk from that, unfortunately, but there's a lot of drivers pretty much sticking in their position, only really gaining 1 or 2 positions as Ryder Dahl quite obviously setting the fastest lap of the race, being the leader. And there's no movement behind yet, no DRS until after, well, this lap really.
No DRS just yet, and it's going to provide them the opportunity to just still fight it out on the circuit. Some drivers decide to just sit in DRS strains. That appears to be the way that this game has gone, and that appears to be the driving style that some of these games have decided to go for. As well, we've got a little fight that is brewing down further towards P15, and it's Jensen ahead of Lafitti, and Lafitti actually backing out of a move on Jensen, opens up the opportunity for Simba Rocks to get through, and the 2 Aston Martins will remain side by side as they head down the hill to the next braking zone. This is where you can't go side by side. Lafitti actually does eventually yield, seeing that Simba Rocks is on the better compounded tyre, and just allowing the Aston Martin through. Schumacher, Wards, Jensen and Simba Rocks 1 are all on the set of the medium, while everyone else is on the hard. And it's interesting to see 3 of the 4 drivers on those mediums are tier 2 drivers.
Maybe they want to get themselves into the mix of a little bit of action and showcase what they're all about, and maybe frustrate some of the tier 1 drivers in the good way, of course. Quantum looking very quick now. Put the pressure on a little bit for Tony as they hurtle on towards Tamburello, Varante. But at the moment, it's just the 3 of them really pushing. Oscar's dropped a little bit from this battle, but saying that, just behind, Urpek and Francesco Largo getting very close together as they head towards Varante Villeneuve and through Varante Villeneuve, but no contact, thankfully for them. But a switchback availability on for Urpek, and has nearly sold Francesco Largo the dummy, but into Piratella they go, and Francesco Largo still leading that battle for P5.
Yeah, very nearly. That was very close between the Kick-Sauber and the Ferrari in terms of just who was going to back out first. And in the end, Urpek did almost latch onto the mistake from Francesco Largo, but no such luck for him, and he stays behind the Ferrari for the time being. Lifeboat just keeps an eye on in the background and just waits for maybe a mistake, maybe a lunge to the inside or something like that from Urpek to just cost Francesco Largo and open up the door for Lifeboat as well. So we're going to head on to lap 4 of 32, and Ryder Dahl is continuing to lead the way. This might be the opportunity for Tony Rees as he gets a good run out of the final corner, and the fastest lap to boot of 1:17.3 aids him in his run to that first place, stealing it off of Ryder Dahl with that DRS. And that's the first time we've seen the lead switch, and it looks particularly comfortable.
Yeah, you need about 6/7 gap, don't you, from the exit of Ravazza into to be able to hold on with a little bit of ERS. So Tony Rees making sure position is stuck there. Quantum got very close as well. Oscar needs to worry about that gap that Quantum seems to be able to pull away from them in that battle for the 3rd place, because Quantum can pull away quite a distance.
Yeah, he certainly can. It's a good opportunity for the top 3 to see what they can do in terms of trying to pull away. Oscar needs to reel his way back in, I think. And, well, Francesco Largo needs to worry about Oscar, I think, before he starts to worry about Urpek, because the Kick-Sauber is always going to threaten the back of the Ferrari. That's just the nature of the way that he is driving this race so far. But Francesco Largo, I think, needs to worry a little bit more about Oscar, and well, a little bit of a moment from the Mercedes might be the perfect opportunity for the Ferrari, as well, there was an issue in the chicane somewhere for Oscar, and that dropped him to 8th, 10th behind Quantum. With a mistake in the final corner as well. Quantum might just level up this matchup as fast as that goes once again to Tony Reich, as he's trying to really push away from Ryderdale. Is Uppbeat going to be able to close in on Francesco Largo enough? No, and so he stays in that 6th place. His teammate, though, continuing to lead the way, and Ryderdale did close in 3/10 behind, but it feels as though you need to be closer than 6/10. And well, Ryderdale, that was the gap for him last time around. And yeah, it feels like if you're 4/10 behind, you can easily get through into the first quarter.
Just looking at the pace Matteo has and the hounding Lifebout for 7th place at the moment. He's stuck to the back end of the diffuser of the Haas, and that must be really frustrating for Lifebout, because well, Matteo is just not giving them a ounce of respite. Reading the chat that there could be rain towards the end of the race, which is interesting. A little bit of spice to the cauldron here in WOR Console Tier 1, but still Matteo is hounding Lifebout, and Lifebout is falling away from Uppbeat, so Matteo needs to make this move quick.
Yeah, I was just reading that, and well, that's going to be very interesting to spice up the racing, and I think it'll actually make the drivers a little bit less tentative, as that's a very wide moment from Lifebout, and Matteo goes through almost contact between the two, but it's an open door, and it's one that the Alpine squeezes through, and he's up in 7th place, but now needs to push to try and get back into the DRS of Uppbeat, or that could be race ruined. He's done so, and Uppbeat almost out of the DRS of Francesco Largo, so I'm not sure what's happened to the Kick Sauber on the last corner, or maybe the run down to the first. But whatever's happened to Uppbeat, that's going to be absolutely devastating for Kick Sauber's race, unless he can get back in, which it looks like he might have been able to. But Matteo still chasing Uppbeat for the time being. And, well, with that rain on the horizon, that is going to spice things up for these hard runners, as I think they're going to try and make those tyres to the end of the stint. Will punches come into it? I'm not sure, because I don't know when this rain is particularly going to fall. And also those medium runners, they're going to be very bold if they were very bold in the end if they went onto those mediums intentionally.
Unless they believe it's going to be that rain that doesn't quite get the track wet enough for inters, and then be able to pull an absolute blinder through all this. Quantum and Ryderdale have just lost touch with Tony. Ryderdale, who showed incredible pace, just can't find an answer to Tony at the moment, and Quantum has dropped even further off and has got Oscar for company as they head down the finish straight to start lap 7. And well, before that, Oscar's flown on past Quantum and is looking at the next driver ahead. But fair play to Tony Reich, because they have got some incredible pace to be able to pull away from Ryderdale.
Yeah, especially in this meta, as he's now just over a second ahead, and Oscar just under, or just over even a second behind Ryderdale. This could be where the battle for the race switches, because that pace advantage with that DRS is so important down the straight that well, if they're not able to make it back in, then I think you might be able to find very quickly that maybe Quantum gets through, maybe Francesco Largo gets through, and then the fight for that P3 doesn't even include Oscar at that point. And well, it's going to be a very interesting one to see how it develops. Quantum, though, might actually drop out of the DRS of Oscar, so this might work perfectly in the Mercedes' favour, as well, he might be able to seal that P3, as there is Lawrence, who's had an issue, and he is retired from the session.
It's not ideal for Lawrence there, and well, an unfortunate Emilia Romagna Grand Prix for the Williams driver tonight. As well, Tony again pulling away. Oscar could help Tony that little bit more, or could bring Ryderdale back into the swing of things. It's a shame for Wards to leave the session, but we need... Well, Ryderdale, I think, needs Oscar to slingshot past them and then get back into the swing of things, as Francesco Largo now dispatches of Quantum. I think Uppbeat is going to do that as well. Quantum is just a sitting duck.
He certainly is, and Francesco Largo needs to make his way into the DRS of Oscar unless he wants to be a sitting duck as well. I think this is an interesting point of the race where the drivers like Tony Reich and Ryderdale are pushed so hard to break free, and the drivers behind were expecting to sort of just sit in the DRS straights like we had at Silverstone, but it's not quite been that case. They've pushed a little bit harder, a little bit earlier, and it's caught some of the drivers off guard. This is why Quantum's dropped down. This is why Francesco Largo is going to struggle to get back into the DRS. This is why Ryderdal actually dropped off of Tony Reich, because Tony pushed at the right time and he caught Ryderdal off guard. The Alpine surely thought that it was just a good couple of corners from the Frenchman, but instead it was a little bit better than that, as our first penalty has been dished out for this race. Urpek picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings as he tries to launch his assault on Francesco Largo, who hasn't been able to get into the DRS of Oscar, and Oscar might still drop out of it on Ryder Dahl as there's fighting into that chicane, but that is only Wards who's left the session, dropping further down. Back to the action down the main straight, and I think we could be seeing Francesco Largo overtaken.
Peck made a mistake through Rivazzo, which cost them a little bit of time. The back end stepped out massively, which I think has given a stay of execution for Francesco Largo on this lap, but they are now 2 seconds behind, and there is, ooh, that looked like Matteo trying to make a move on Quantum as well for P6 at the same time. It actually through the outside, and Matteo has dispatched the McLaren. What a move from the championship leader and the Alpine driver. Oh, what on earth was that?
It was an absolutely unbelievable move to start off with, but Quantum, I think, having a little bit of a head loss, and Matteo letting him back through, maybe making it a little bit more of the Alpine's fault, but now that changes this race dynamic completely, because Matteo letting Quantum through, despite Quantum having that front wing damage, is going to cost him a lot of time, and it's going to cost him a position to Volokongan, who's in the background. Lifebout and Venom are going to fight. Lifebout to the inside, and he takes the position. Quantum fighting Matteo back despite the front wing damage, and that is going to cost them time, and it's going to drop them out of the DRS of Volokongan, so that's crucial. That means that they're probably going to peak at 7th place as Quantum, 3-second time penalty for him. Lifebout chasing through and might get the opportunity to overtake Quantum if the McLaren doesn't come into the pit lane. If he does come into the pit lane, then it still opens the door for Venom to get through on Lifebout, and all of this is benefiting Zviade, who's going to be able to get back into the DRS. Yeah, the McLaren does dive in on lap 10 of this race, and I think it's going to be for another set of the hard compound tyres, as it's going to be Venom potentially making the move, as Oscar is past Ryderdal for P2. That is intriguing, and that is very, very well worked from the Mercedes, just pushing at the right time and managing to catch Ryderdal off guard.
I think that Oscar move was required, was needed, just to slingshot through. I don't think it's fully worked though. And Urpik and Francesco Largo still 2.6 seconds from it. Volokongan's just there as well. Matteo losing ground to Volokongan because of whatever happened through Ferrante Tamburello and Ferrante Villeneuve. As Francesco Largo now picks up a 3-second time penalty, and there's a yellow flag at the end, and I think that's Dirk having an issue.
Yeah, very potentially. It was a shame for Dirk. It's a shame for Wards that their race has gone the way they have, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them retire soon. But you never quite know, especially with rain on the horizon. We might be getting safety cars or something akin to that very soon. As we'll head over to lap number 11. Tony Reich continuing to lead the way. Oscar in that second place as Ollie Hornby picks up 3 seconds worth of time penalties to add to his time at the end of this race. As Ryderdal trying to close in on Oscar, seeing what he can do. The Mercedes has now made its way to within DRS range of Tony Reich. He's not going to have it on this lap, but on the next occasion round, on lap 12, he's going to have it. Urpek is through on Francesco Largo, and that could be a huge move in the context of this race.
Could be indeed. Volokongan's right in there. Matteo's back in there as well. And with everything all said and done, Oscar's not... He's knocking on the door of Tony, but Tony's just able to produce the pull away at the right times.
Yeah, he certainly is at the moment. It's very much working for him, and Oscar is trying to stay within that DRS range, and I think he's going to push in the last sector on this lap to see what he can do in terms of staying in. But Tony Reich looks to have so much more pace in these corners, not necessarily down the straight, and so that could cost him if Oscar is able to make his way back into range. But at the moment, he is in with an ample opportunity to try and push 1.1 seconds ahead as he headed through the chicane. So very, very much a much better setup or something along those lines. Ollie Hornby looks like he's had an issue. He's got an end plate off, so I think he might have tapped the inside wall on the entry into the little section there. As Tony Reich still 1.2 ahead of Oscar, so the final sector appears to be where he takes all of his time.
Yeah, some great pace there from Tony. As well, the front three have pulled away a little bit, and Oscar is catching as they come down the straight. Some ERS definitely being used as they head into Ferrante Tamburello for the 12th time tonight, and just agonisingly within DRS range was Oscar for Tony for a minuscule of a second. It's back up to 1.1 seconds now Urpek still leading the battle for that second train, really, in the battle for fourth place, as Ollie Hornby getting passed by Schumacher, but that's because Ollie Hornby's into the pits. Lap 12 of 32. We've lost one driver, Lawrence, and three drivers, sorry, have had to pit early. Oh, actually, no, a fair few. Schumacher, Jensen had to pit because they were on medium compound tyres, weren't they? So they are now going to the end of the Grand Prix, and there could be some wet weather coming as well. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, they very much could, and I think that's the reason that Ollie Hornby switched onto a set of those mediums. Of course, he's done 12, so maybe we're going to get rain in the last 8 laps of this race. That appears to be what Ollie Hornby thinks is going to happen, at least. And, well, Simbarox, Wards, Quantum, everyone else who's coming to the pits appears to be disagreeing with him. And, of course, Dirk is too far out to make him part of the sample. Ryder is 4 tenths back as Tony Reich is pushing once again, and he's 1.6 ahead of the Mercedes of Oscar. He's controlled his pace incredibly so far, and he is certainly favourite to win this one out as Ryder to the inside through on Oscar and up into second place. And Francesco Largo not quite quick enough to make a send on Urpek. He stays behind in 4th place at the moment, but lap 13 of 32, and Tony Reich, he's going so slowly in this first sector. I think he's gaining all of the air as he can, and then he's just deploying it all in the final one.
Yeah, it seems like some smart moves there from Tony Reich, but looking at that, Ryder Dahl looks like they've absolutely nailed this part of the track. Let's see how the time goes down. Quantum and Jensen swapping positions as they come down towards Ferrante Tamburello. And within DRS, again, is Ryder Dahl of Tony Reich as they head towards Ferrante Alta. This could be Tony's time, well, Ryder Dahl's time to showcase why they should be the championship leader at the end of this race.
Well, and at the moment he's showing how much quicker he is than Matteo, as Matteo down in 7th place. Of course, he had his incident with, Quantum. That's only lost him 1 position to Volokongan, but Volokongan has managed to do the work to get back into the range of Urpek and Francesco Largo. So this is a battle brewing for the Mercedes and the Alpine if they can get through on Francesco Largo, who comes into the pits and he gets a 10-second and he retires from the session. So Francesco Largo, maybe something going on, well, behind closed doors off the game, I'm not sure, but he's out of the session, and that's unfortunate, and that's going to be your race win. That's going to be your race win prediction in the bin.
Yep, it's well and truly in the bin, isn't it? I hope it's nothing serious on Francesco Largo's side as we continue to battle through the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, as Matteo we're on board with, trying to find a way through Volokongan, but it's just not happening at the moment. Ryder Dahl and Oscar back into the battle for the lead. So we've got a three-way battle for the lead and not Tony Reich just running away with it, which looked like for a time would have been the case.
Yeah, it very much could have been. And, well, Tony Reich now within range, as I believe that's that's the yellow flag for Francesco Largo in the first sector. So nothing to worry about. Ollie Hornby came to the pits in the last couple of laps to fix that front wing. And he is going to be getting through, and I think he and Dirk would be the first contenders to be lapped in this race. Disappointing for Ollie Hornby. He could have shown what he could have done, but instead I think he had some sort of potentially spin or something along those lines. Tony reached into the pit, and that's somebody into the wall in the foreground. That's going to be Urpek, who smashes into the wall. Poor exit out of the final corner, and that could be massively costly.
Have a look. There's no damage by the looks of things. It might be superficial damage, but behind Lifeboat now. And that's just given Matteo an easy position as Ryder Dahl retakes the lead of the Grand Prix, and Tony deciding the weather might not be as damning as it could have been, but we don't know. Lap 15 of 32, and it's very odd to see Tony pit. He's gone on to another set of hards. So ahead of Schumacher, got a little bit of time ahead to Tony, to Lafiti just ahead. So maybe Tony Reich has pulled the trigger early to put other drivers off.
Very potentially. An undercut is generally strong on F125, and that might be what he's trying to execute at the moment. He's come out of the pits with a big gap to anyone else, of course, Schumacher behind. But Tony Reich, I think, is going to have the pace to clear Schumacher quite easily. At least that's what qualifying would say, with him being 5 tenths faster. But the Ferrari could be a thorn in the Kick-Sauber side, and I think he was just going to wait until he was going to be able to come out mathematically ahead of everybody who's already come into the pit. So it's going to be a very, very calculated pit stop for Tony Reich And, well, potentially he could go to the very end of the race on these tyres, I think, as Urpek is going to come into the pits on this lap. And we'll see whether the Kicksauber did actually pick up any damage. Viade and Venom both in as well. But that is a hugely costly mistake on the last lap from Urpek. And while he's not going to get that front wing replaced, it's going to be a lot of emotional damage.
Just thinking of the Tony situation here. If it starts raining, will he have to pit? Because this is another set of hards. For some reason, the rules have escaped my brain. I know if at some you do have to pit in a dry race, but if it starts raining, do you have to put on a set of intermediate tyres or can you go to the end with only two hard tyres?
I'm currently Googling, so give me a second, but then I'll be able to provide you with your answer. Because I had the same question as well.
But I think you have to pit, but I have to get inters, but it is supposed to rain, so we'll have to wait and see. Or is Tony just trying to push that a little bit further and then go on to inters? You know, maybe they pushed the tyres just too much. We'll have to wait and see as we'll go up to the leaders again. I don't think really anything is massively happening. ETA Azim is a bit into the pits, so they are going to be dispatched by Tony. Tony's back up into 7th place. Schumacher's staying out for the time being. So are we just seeing a change of or a different strategy case for Tony that could come back to bite them?
Potentially, and I've actually got my answer for you. It's not anything to do with the weather conditions. It's as soon as you use a wet weather tyre, you don't have to. Like the rule for dry tyres doesn't apply anymore. So he does have to pit again in this race, regardless of what happens. So that could be a very interesting case for Tony Reich, as well. Currently he does lead the drivers out into the pits, but I think a lot of them are waiting it out. But at the same time, I'm not sure how much longer these hard compound tyres at the top of this field are going to last. Of course, some drivers will be managing their tyres better than others, but I think these tyres are going to be lasting a maximum of 20 laps. So they've only got a couple more laps in them, and if Ollie Hornby's data is anything to go by, they're going to be off by the rain's going to start affecting the drivers by about lap 24. So they've got about 6 laps to go. They will have about 8 laps left to go in the race. Not sure whether they're going to be able to manage those tyres to that point.
Well, was it last week that Lifebout that had 100% tyres? The new tyre whisperer? So Lifebout maybe can get to the end. We'll have to wait and see. Tony is 16.6 seconds behind Ryder Dahl. So while able to catch, it's not enough of a rate. But we are also thinking possibly we could be seeing some rain very, very shortly, and also possibly some punctures. The front runners are definitely slowing down. Volokongan and Matteo are catching Oscar and Ryder Dahl, so they're protecting their tyres a little bit more.
Yeah, they are, and Volokongan and Matteo pushing isn't going to help them. But if the rain does come, don't forget, Oscar and Volokongan are the same team. Matteo and Ryder Dahl are the same team. So they're going to have to work this one out together. And they might get held up in the pit lane, which will be absolutely huge in terms of the overall race picture that we have. Ryder Dahl still leading Oscar, who's chasing with the DRS. But he's, I think, going to save everything he can, as every little will help at this point in the Grand Prix, and will allow him to get an absolutely massive advantage if you're able to get those tyres just continuing to stay up and ready as Lifebout into the pit lane. He's onto a set of the medium, so potentially even I think the rain might be staying away, which would be absolutely devastating for the likes of Tony Reich.
Yeah, this is not ideal, but could it also be a little bit more, if the rain comes out and say lap 30, would it, and then, well, sorry, lap 25, surely it would be better hands for Tony. It depends when the rain comes out.
It certainly does, and well, with the unpredictable weather forecast, this game can dish up sometimes. and then it's going to be a very, very difficult case to try and work out what is truth and what is a lie. Viado makes his way past Jensen, and he's the only driver in that little pack without a penalty. Jensen, Simbarox, Quantum and Uppbeat all have time penalties, and of course Jensen's is a whole 10 seconds as Viado now sets his sights on Quantum for that ninth place, and I think he might be able to get this as soon as down the main straight. He looks like he's got a huge pace advantage.
It's looking very strong for the Williams driver at the moment. The rain is still a few laps away, but Tony Rees is catching and catching and catching. Dirk picks up a 3-second time penalty, not ideal for the Shizou driver. And, well, it is starting to grey overhead as Zioardi flies on past Quantum for 9th place. Could we see, as we go to the front runners again, who are very close together, Volokongan and Oscar, have to squabble for position for pit lane access?
Very potentially, as I mentioned earlier, those two are very close together on the circuit and on the same team. Matteo is, I think, backing up a little bit of from Ryderdal sensibly, and of course I only say Ryderdal because he's the driver in the same team. Two Mercedes wouldn't affect Matteo too much in terms of when he comes into the pit lane, but if he can get a 2.2 second gap, I think that'll work. To Ryderdal, 2.5 would be even more safe. And Matteo will be asking Ryderdal, begging him to tell him when he's going to come into the pit, simply for his own benefit. Dirk becomes the 3rd retirement from this session, and well, Francesco, Largo, Lawrence were the other two. These drivers will continue on for a 21st, and well, we will see whether those tyres are going to last. Tony Rees with a world of his own at the moment in 5th place, it seems, 5.6 behind the top queue as there's fighting between them, and Ryderdal manages to come out ahead of Oscar. Defensive driving has worked for the Alpine, and he stays once again ahead. Oscar, though, he's lost some time, and he's going to come under pressure from Volokongan, but not too much at this point. Of course, they're both teammates. Schumacher as well makes his way past Lafitti, who is the last driver who hasn't come into the pits. So Tony Rees, Schumacher, maybe soon Uppbeat, starting to make an impact.
And Tony Rees is 6.6 seconds behind this front four as we watch it. They are rapid. These guys are pretending. Oh my goodness, is that Matteo with a puncture? I've just seen him going flying off in the background at Piratella, and that looks damaging for their championship.
It certainly does. That is absolutely huge. Ryderdal will be so happy with that one. And you can see exactly why Matteo backed off at the start of this lap, because he had horrible tyre wear, and that's going to scare Ryderdal, Oscar and Volokongan, as well as Lafitti, into coming into the pit lane. It looks like it might be a even a right rear puncher. Indeed it is. And well, that is absolutely horrible for the Alpine in terms of his championship chances and race chances as well. He might not be able to even make it back round to the pit lane. Ryderdal, Oscar and Volokongan continue on another lap. That is going to be a huge gamble. Oscar is getting through on Ryderdal, and they don't want to be fighting at this point. Ryderdal recognises this. The two Mercedes maybe not, and so they're going through, and well, they've gotten through on one driver, and will be trying to fight with another. Lafitti scared into the pit lane, and well, that one has worked out for the Aston Martin quite nicely as well, he was waiting for all the rain. He's had to come into the pits then, and he might actually come out on a set of soft, something like that, something to take him to that point in the race. And Oscar, Volokongan and Ryderdal will be waiting. Lafitti has gone on to the intermediates, so the rain is threatening, and it's going to come soon. It's not here yet, and if Volokongan and Oscar can hold on to them for another lap, then they'll be in a good position.
I believe it's going to rain now. I think that the glitch for the rain has just come through, but is it going to rain enough? That's the question. Is it going to be enough for them to fly on through? Because there's Tony just behind Ryderdal. They're going to be able to go a lap extra. Surely. What? Because the front three, they surely shouldn't be able to, well, shouldn't take the risk to go out another lap. Because, well, we saw what happened to Matteo. Is it going to happen to these guys as well? The rain is here. Who pops? Who decides? Oscar's in. Ryderdal stays out. Ryderdal and Volokongan have decided that now's the time, but Oscar couldn't make that decision.
I think at this point it's going to be a case of the rain is either going to come lashing down, or it's just going to be a little bit of rain and then it's going to go away. That is the case throughout the course of this game, and you can see a number of drivers into the pit lane. I think it's going to be the rain comes and stays, and Oscar, Quantum, and it looks like Azim and Venom are all going to come in for those intermediate tyres. Is Venom going to switch over it? Yes, indeed he is. He's finally made that switch. Laffiti, of course, made that switch last lap, and we'll see whether that paid off for him. But Volokongan here is defending against Tony Reich. So the Kick Sauber is really trying to pressure Volokongan on those fresher tyres and cause a puncture for the Mercedes. It's very well played from him, and he might be able to get ahead. Volokongan squeezing Tony Reich all the way to the inside. Tony Reich dares, and he does make that move. He's got a lot more tyre grip than Volokongan. He's flexed his muscles there, and he's up into first place. Volokongan dropping down to second, but that won't matter too much because it's all about this pit lane now.
It is indeed. Let's see the time between Oscar and Tony. Well, does Tony pit now? Is this our driver's desperate to? It's not lashing it down. Volokongan pits. Ryder Dahl pits. Tony thinks they can go another lap. Let's see the time between Tony and Oscar. Now Oscar's tyres are up to pace. It doesn't look like it's time for intermediates yet, but the front runners had to pit because of their tyre life.
I was going to say, I think that's why Tony Reich has managed to go on another lap. I think that's why he's decided to go on another lap. And I think that's why it's going to work out for him, because he's just gotten the opportunity to go for just one more lap. Every single lap that Tony Reich will be going on, it'll be just the one more lap. And if he's able to keep that tyre grip, then he'll be absolutely flying throughout the course of the rest of this race, because he will get this pit stop absolutely pinpoint perfect. Tony Reich then, I'm going to keep an eye on his sector times, and the first sector that he's just set is a 26.6 is what he's been able to do. Oscar then, we'll see what he does. Of course, the leading intermediate tyre runner as it stands, he's done a 26.1, so there is a 4/10 split, because it's just a very high 26.1. It's a 4/10 split, and Tony Reich at the moment is on the receiving end of it, and he's going to come around the final couple of corners, and surely it's pit stop time for the Kick Sauber.
I think so indeed. We've just seen Venom, Azim and Laffiti coming together and having an incident. Let's go on board with Oscar, who's coming towards Varante Alta now as pit lane for Tony Reich. Urpek just behind as well, heading towards the pit lane, I am almost certain. Lifebout and Schumacher and Simba Roxwan all yet to pit. But here is Shazoo Oscar, 1.7 seconds in front of their teammate Volokongan. What can Oscar do in comparison to Tony Reich? And is this going to put our well, at the moment we're 7 different winners out of 7 races. Could this affect, if Tony wins this one, it will affect. There goes Shazoo Oscar. Shazoo Oscar has not won a race this season, and this could keep that streak alive in WOR Console Tier 1.
It very much could, and well, he's going to come out in 3rd place now. He's come out in behind those drivers, crucially. Those 2 Mercedes, they can work together to defend, and Tony Reich now 9/10 back, but 1 lap is a long time in terms of this game. As DRS is disabled, it is officially wet tyre time, or at least intermediate tyre time, as Azim has come in for a set of the mediums, so not sure what the Red Bull's doing at the moment, but I think he's just given up on this race for now. But 8/10 now, but splitting Volokongan and Tony Reich. He's kicked those tyres up into a frenzy, and he's ready to attack.
Of Volokongan and attack Oscar, but I think Tony it's got a lot of work to do, because Volokongan is no slouch when it comes to defending, and Tony Volokongan is a great defender, and Tony will have his work cut out trying to make that move stick.
Yeah, he will, and don't forget as well that, I mean, you mentioned the fact that Oscar hadn't won a race this season, nor has Volokongan, so if he's able to get through on his teammate then, we could have another new winner this season, and Volokongan with slightly younger tyres. As I say, 1 lap is a long time, and well, he might be able to get the opportunity to overturn Oscar's lead if Tony Reich decides to start to fight the Mercedes, but he's got to get through on Volokongan first, as the rain comes down harder and harder on the circuit, and the drivers get a little bit more tentative about their inputs, and also at the same time those inputs get a little bit more panicked. So if you start to spin around, you have a little half spin, that could really cost you. And well, also at this point you don't have that DRS, so the main overtaking opportunity has been shut down into the first corner, so they're going to have to force their way through all by themselves.
Well, indeed. Let's just remind ourselves, Matteo, Dirk and Francesco Largo and Lawrence all have retired from this race. Matteo is the championship leader, or should I say was, because Ryder Dahl is now in P4 with some big points coming their way, and the pendulum swings towards them. Volokongan is catching Oscar by the slimmest of margins, but now Tony Riesch is definitely looking racy as well, all over the back of Volokongan, and we've lost Azim.
Pit stops to the medium tyre, surely an accident, and he won't be happy with that one after coming in last minute. Of course, no practice, anything like that, and well, that'll really cost him. As out of the final corner comes Tony Riesch, putting the power down, opening up the DRS, I'm sure, and or ERS even, not DRS, because that's disabled at this point in the race, but he's just trying to see what he can do as Schumacher does leave the session, and that'll see Quantum up into 7th place. Disappointing then for our leader of our Tier 2 drivers, that he's dropped out of the session at such a crucial point with just 5 laps to go, and Lifeboat is going to get through as well, so he might even drop out of the points and into the clutches of the likes of Simba Rocks 1, who's a Tier 2 driver. Of course, all the Tier 2 drivers left in this race, but Ollie Hornby clinging on by just, he's 23 seconds behind. He made one mistake and that really cost him his race, and well, that's the difference between the Tier 1 drivers and the Tier 2, apart from pure pace, because of course Schumacher showing his pace. There's a lot of factors that go into the selection. One of them is the consistency, and Schumacher showing consistent pace, but of course getting disconnected. Simbarox and Wards just outside the top 10 as well, so they have performed pretty well. But I mean, Ollie Hornby not having the greatest of days and the greatest of demonstrations of his ability. Tony Riesch now 2/10 in behind Volokongan. So the challenge switches, I think, for the Kick Sauber from can I catch up to where can I overtake?
Yeah, it's changed a little bit, and Volokongan is positioning their car to absolute incredible position to stop Tony Riesch from getting past. And Tony, well, must be thinking, where on earth can I get past this silver arrows? And then when they do, they've got to find a way past another one, which is probably not going to help at all, as Volokongan pulls away down the straight, which allows a little bit of respite for the reigning champion here in console Tier 1. But then again, Tony, I think the setup is far more attuned to a little bit of wet, because they are all over the back of them through the corners.
It certainly does feel that way, and we noticed that throughout the course of the dry stint. The fact that he was able to be caught so quickly in the straights, and he's down the inside of Volokongan now. Can he get the exit? He's got that set up for the wet conditions, and he's not going to be able to get his way through. Interestingly enough, Volokongan gets a better exit. Tony Riesch got a kick of oversteer, which cost him that P2 for now. But can he get it as they head down the next few corners? Schumacher with a 3-second time penalty, and that might drop him out of the points. But now, is he going to go for a move into the chicane? Nobody would dare go for a move through here. Everybody was invalidating in qualifying. And, well, he might be able to get the run, but no. He stays behind. Ryderdal, in the meantime, is watching this battle with some interest, as Riesch will potentially go for a move into the first corner.
Shizou Oscar, 2.6 seconds, and the gap is increasing. Volokongan is doing a wonderful team job for Mercedes and Shizou Cedar Igniters right now of holding up Tony. Let's see how it works as they head down the start, finish straight to start. Lap 29 of 32. 4 laps remaining here in console Tier 1. And Tony Riesch just can't find a way through the Volokongan, the reigning champion at the moment, as they head into Ferranti Tamburello for the 29th time.
Volokongan is very heavily holding Tony Riesch up here, and this is going to frustrate the Kick Sauber, as well, the Mercedes is just doing such a good job. You can see the gaps eked out to 3 seconds, and I don't think he'll be able, despite his wet setup, to close that gap down in the remaining laps. Ryderdal is now 5/10 behind, just demonstrating how much Oscar's holding him up, or how much Volokongan's holding him up for Oscar. And Tony Riesch now, can he find his way through? He's not getting close enough at the crucial points. He's not getting close enough in the overtaking spots, so he's going to have to force something soon.
They do indeed. And, you know, I remember Abu Dhabi 2021, they said that Sergio Perez was the Ministry of Defense for Mexico, and Max Verstappen at the moment, Volokongan, is the Ministry of Defense for Shizou Oscar, as they are continuing formation at the moment. And Tony will be really frustrated at not being able to get past, because it's 3 seconds now. It's nearly Oscar's victory.
Yeah, it feels like it is Oscar's victory to lose even as they come round to the straight for what will be the 30th of 32 times. And Tony Reich is pushing as much as he can to close in. That wet line is only getting wetter and it's only getting harder to overtake as Ryderdal 2 tenths back is looking now more likely to overtake Tony Reich than Reich is to Volakongen. So I think this is going to be opportunity missed for the Kick Sauber. And it looks like Oscar might be going on to take this victory. Schumacher has, I think, crashed into the pit wall and he's retired from the session.
That is not ideal. Let's see if we can...
Yeah, he looked like he was going to come into the pits and he's just driven into the pit entry.
Oh, wonderful. Unfortunate for Schumacher there, who looked like they were going to get some good points from the Tier 2 driver, but not to be, as Tony still trying to find a way through. Lap 30 of 32, and at the moment, we're on course for 8 races, 8 different winners.
And, well, what a season it's been with... You'd think that at this point, one driver would have taken advantage of everything and managed to break away, but nobody has managed to really stamp their authority. It's been a really, really open season, and well, it's just demonstrated in the fact that, of course, we haven't got any more than a one-time winner. And, of course, don't forget about Keke Rosberg. All those years ago, we could be having a season repeat of that one, as, well, Oscar looks like he's going to go on to take his first victory of the season, and Mercedes' first victory of the season as well. Volakongen has not had the season, the reigning season that he would have wanted. He's not had the title defence that he would have wanted, and it's really, really been a struggle for him. But P2, I'm sure at this point he'll be chuffed about if he's able to hold on to it. Tony Reich just 1.5 seconds behind into the first corner, but again, staying behind onto the penultimate lap.
31 and 32, we've lost 6 drivers: Schumacher, Azim, Matteo, Dirk, Francesco Largo, and Lawrence. But Shizu Oscar and Shizu Volakongen have done an incredible job of not only holding up Tony Reich, who looked like probably the quickest driver in race trim, but also allowing Shizu Oscar a nearly 4-second gap. And I think Volakongen can now start to ease the pressure off themselves defending and maybe push forward a little bit just to ensure that they've got the victory. But here comes Tony Reich again, looking through as they head towards Ferrante Alta, turns 14 and 15, but again, just no way through. And I think you mentioned earlier on, Ryderdal actually is looking the more likely to overtake than Tony is.
Yeah, Tony has looked racy, but not when it matters. So he's looked very, very aggressive. But as soon as he gets anywhere near close to Volakongen, he's just nowhere near. Like, Volakongen is doing so well at soaking up that pressure from Tony Reich, and I think that's a talent that goes understated in Formula 1 or league racing or anything like that nowadays. Defensive driving, it's so perfect. And he's driven such a perfect race this evening that his P2 doesn't even look under threat. His P3, though, for Tony Reich, certainly does. Ryderdal looked all the way to the inside. There was contact between the two. Reich tried to squeeze him. Rinse and repeat of Britain. But that is going to be Tony Reich down and Ryderdal up. Reich will now be furious because not only has he lost what looked like a very prospective win and a very well-managed drive, he's now down to 4th place and might be out of the podium positions, trying to take the wide line to turn it in and get the exit out of the corner. The switchback move is on for the Kick Sauber, and they both have slides out of the exits. That's going to neutralise the battle as they head up the hill towards the next braking zone, and it's opening up the door for Tony Reich to get through. Contact between the two. Ryderdal runs wide, and Tony Reich goes through. Ryderdal picks up a 3-second for his troubles, but Reich, once again, just looking aggressive, but this time he's managed to make the move stick.
Yeah, that's what, well, he possibly could have done to Volakongen later on, but I don't think Volakongen's going to get any more trouble from Tony. But let's go on board with Shizu Oscar, who, well, maybe a little bit of a surprise victor as he goes really wide into turn 17. Lifeboat picks up another set of penalties. That's 24 seconds for them, but it's not about that. We've got eight races here in console tier 1 and 8 victors, and Shizu Oscar has done it. The 8th different driver, the 8th different winner, and what a race for them. Tony Volakongen in 2nd place, and as you quite rightly mentioned, someone with possibly a right to the victory with the pace that they were showing. Tony Reich only managing 3rd place there in the end, as all the drivers now coming across the line. Does Wards get in front of... Yes, they do. Lifeboats dropping down the order like no one's business with those penalties.
Yeah, certainly did, and he span around the final corner as well, just to compound his misery. Not sure whether it was intentional or not. I could hazard a guess that it was, but he really struggled today, and unfortunate for him that he wasn't able to convert the pace into something. But his teammate had a worse weekend, as Ollie Hornby just unable to get anything going this evening, and that spin has certainly compounded his misery. 14th and last place is where he's going to finish, but it's going to be while it's not a great day for Haas, it's a great day for Mercedes, and the victory for Oscar, for Volokong, and P3 for Tony Reich, 4th place for Ryder Darlin Viale. Surprise 5th place, Venom surprise 6th place. 2 very good results there. Urpek dropping to 7th. Feels like he had podium pace as well.
Yeah, Urpek with those penalties, and maybe a mistake. It was a mistake, wasn't it, for Urpek not being able to, or hitting the pit wall when they wanted to go into the pits, but thankfully no damage throughout, as we've got 2 Mercedes on the podium, and a Kick Sauber has some great battling beheld us tonight in Emilia Romagna for round 8 of this race, as we just wait for the final positional orders to come up for us. It was quite a race with some difficult bits, I think, for some of the drivers tonight, as the orders coming on. Driver of the day has been given to Venom. I will wait for what Joseph thinks it is, but Oscar, Volokong and Tony on the podium. Ryder Dahl in 4th place, 5th to Ziawadi, 6th to Venom, Urpek in 7th, 8th to Quantum, 9th to Wards, and rounding out the point scoring positions was Lafiti, and the rest of the orders is Simba, Roxwan, Jensen, Lifebout, Ollie Hornby, Schumacher, Schumacher, Azim, Matteo, Dirk, Francesco Lago and Lawrence all didn't pit, and that's over and done with. Neither of our picks for race winners came through today, but Oscar drove a really good race.
He certainly did. I think mine went a little bit better than yours in the end. Francesco Lago randomly retiring, but it was a pretty good race, all things considered, and of course we had once again an incident towards the end of the race that I'm sure will be discussed. I'm watching it back now. It does look like Ryder Dahl tries to turn in a little bit too early, and then Tony Reich looks like he just, in retaliation, pushes him wide. So I don't think it's going to be any more than a racing incident, but certainly I think it's fair to say Tony Reich is very, very good at spicing up a season.
Certainly is indeed. Just having a look at the chat. So there was an incident between Matteo and Quantum, and I mean they're really amicable about it in the chat. I'm really surprised. Fair play to them. Really appreciate that. But wow, what a race! I mean, that's added spice, and the rain at the end, which we didn't think was going to come. We thought was going to come, but maybe not as hard as it did.
Yeah, it did, and I think it just made a few of the drivers a bit nervous. And, honestly, I think Tony Reich has that race if he pits for mediums instead of hards. I really do. I think that was Tony Reich's race to lose, and he let it slip.
Interesting for that one. And driver of the day, obviously the game gave it to Venom, but we had so much action up front, it's difficult to choose.
It very much is. It was it's a very difficult race to call in terms of that, because there was a few drivers who deserved it. I think Oscar's a great shout for it. I think Volokong and the way he defended is a very good shout for it. I'm going to go for Sviade just because I like to be different. I'm going to go for Sviade just because I think the fight up from where he was at the start of the race, which would have been P11, middle of the road, he's done well to make it out of it with what is, for him, a very, very, very good result in 5th place. And, he's not necessarily had the greatest of luck so far this season. He's only picked up 1 point. So to pick up that amount of points, I think he's quite literally times 6 his score. He's done a very good job.
Certainly has. And let's talk about the championship standings, because that has been moved in the other direction. The pendulum swings again, and Volokongan is... No, sorry, not Volokongan. That's Volokongan is the reigning champion. Ryder Dahl is now leading the championship again.
Yeah, you wish it was Volakongen, I think, because well, it would have been a potentially better title defense, but it is what it is. And well, I mean, currently looking at the standings, it looks like it's going to be Ryderdal 11 points ahead of Matteo at the top, and well, Oscar moving up to third place with that victory, and he's in a good run of form, second last time out and first this time. So with 2 rounds to go, maybe an outside shout.
Maybe an outside shout indeed. But there we have it. That is, I don't believe we've got anyone coming to join us today, Joseph. So that is the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix wrapped up for us. And, well, let's have a look at what we've got left for the season. We've got Suzuka and Yas Marina as the 2 tracks remaining. And Matteo, well, losing all that points tonight. There's a lot of work for them to do in Suzuka next time out. And if you were a betting man, how would you think Japan is going to roll out for us next week?
I think there's going to be about 6 overtakes, 7 overtakes, something like that. But irrespective of that, I think it's going to be a very, very decisive race for the title fight. I think Matteo's really let it slip today. And I think that it's either it swings in the favour of Matteo or Oscar even, or Ryderdal grabs it.
We will have to wait and see. Join us next week for that one. There is other WOR action happening throughout the week, so be sure to check the socials for that one. But for tonight, Ryderdal takes a little bit of a claim for the championship battle, but we've gone 8 victories for 8 different drivers here in Console Tier 1 in 8 races, and it's been an absolute fantastic Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next week for the next one.